We talk about the safety room. That's another spot where I think you feel good about what you have coming back, but also what you're returning. Because look, there was a lot of, I say coming back, there's a lot of overturn here. Really, the only guy returning was Isaac Smith, which you know what you have there. Um, Outstanding leader, a Bulldog through and through, and a guy that's a great safety, one of the top safeties within the SEC. And another guy that is a great fit for what Zach Arnett wants to do, playing as that middle safety type role where he's sort of a hybrid linebacker and safety, where you're getting him down in the box as a tackler. You can also play him in the middle of the field, and that's where last year I talked about, I think his coverage skills took a step forward, and you could trust him to be that middle of the field zone type player and even sometimes man up on tight ends. I think you saw him take a step forward there. And I think he's going to be utilized really well within a Zach Arnett defense that wants to be aggressive, ask those safeties to be able to get downhill and be a part of the run fit and be that extra number in the box, but can also move him around and send pressures with him, which is something they toyed with a little bit last year in that defense. I think Zach Arnett will be able to employ him even better because I do think he's a good rusher off the edge if you want to use him in that way. So I think Isaac Smith is going to be in for a really, really big year in his final year as a Bulldog, getting to play with the DC that he was recruited to play for originally. So that's big. And, Tanner Johnson coming back after getting some experience a season ago, made a few plays for State last season. So you have a little bit back, but you're also replacing quite a bit. Most everybody else that played for you significant minutes or snaps is gone. So you have 3 transfers coming in, guys that I think you can be pretty excited about. Marcus Williams coming over from Rice. I'll pull up his numbers real quick. This is a guy that's played a ton of football and has been a very productive player throughout his career. Last season, 67 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 5 passes broken up, 1 quarterback hurry, 1 forced fumble. In 2024, limited, got injured, only got to play in 3 games. But 2023, 6 games, I think dealt with injuries again, but was very productive in those 6 games. You got to go back for him quite a bit. He's battled injuries throughout his career, but it's a guy that last year, as fully healthy, was really productive. And in the games that he did get to play previously, put up really nice numbers as well. Guy who's played a lot of football. Guy who's been both a nickel-type player, but also can play as a deep middle-of-the-field guy. So that's some important versatility to be able to have there. And the veteran transfers is sort of the things that I look to as the theme here when you talk about the safeties that State brought in. Because then you talk about Jordan Gilbert coming over from LSU as a guy that trying to find where he was at for the Tigers real quick. LSU this past season, didn't play a ton, ended up taking a redshirt year. But I remember LSU, had a good game against Clemson. He got put into a tough spot there. I believe had to play as kind of the nickel type guy. Had a nice game. Back in 2024, productive year. 55 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, had half a sack, 3 passes broken up, 1 interception. 2023, back at Texas A&M, only got to play a couple of games that year, but the season before for the Aggies, 61 tackles, 2 picks, 4 passes broken up. This is a guy who's going into his 6th year of college football, a guy who has played a lot. And look, LSU fans very much had mixed opinions on him a season ago. If you search his name on X, you'll see that. But the guy's been able to play a lot. And I also trust the way he's going to get utilized in his Zach Arnett defense. I'm going to value that experience. And then you talk about Kendall Dolby coming in, who's maybe the most interesting guy in this group. Because if you go back a couple seasons ago for Oklahoma, Kendall Dolby playing in their striker position on defense was an absolute stud. 49 tackles, 2 picks, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 4 passes broken up, 4 quarterback hurries. Got used as all over the field and involved in a variety of ways. But he got hurt last year, 2 seasons ago, and really in the last 2 years has been banged up. When he's played, been very productive, but has had to battle injuries each of the last 2 seasons. But that's a guy that, when healthy, was an outstanding player for Oklahoma. And it kind of sounds like he's back to being fully healthy again. Now, can he get back to the speed he was 3 years ago after 2 years of just not being able to do much? We'll see. But I love bringing in those veterans to that room. I've talked about this with safety before. Safety is a spot where pure athleticism is not necessarily what you're going off of. It's not all about having guys who are bigger, faster, stronger than everybody else. It's nice to have. You definitely need guys that have those skills. But in order to have success defensively, the biggest thing is having guys that know where they're supposed to be for that spot, because safety is a position where you're not always asked to be one-on-one in coverage. And you don't even have to ask guys to do that, technically, from that spot. It's more, do you understand your assignment? Do you understand where to play in your zone? Can you take good angles to come up and make tackles? Do you know how to pass things off in coverage? That takes playing a lot of football. All three safeties that State has brought in are guys who have been around, who have played a lot of football in their careers. And while, obviously Dolby's dealt with injuries, Marcus Williams coming from a lower level, Jordan Gilbert, kind of mixed opinions on him as a player. You can look at drawbacks for these guys for sure. But the experience and at the best being guys that have performed really well gives you reason to believe that worst case scenario, can they be as good as what you had between the three guys you lost who played a lot, between Jerron Manning, Hunter Washington, and Brian Lanier? I think worst case, they can be just as good. And that was a group that last year was up and down. Like I said, Jerron Manning had a very nice year for State. Brian Lanier kind of up and down. Hunter Washington's one of those guys State fans were sort of ready to see a change, right? Had his moments, had some big plays early in his career, but obviously, there was some big plays downfield allowed. But safety wasn't a position that I thought killed Mississippi State last year. For the most part, they were fine. So I think you were at least going to get the same play this year, with the ceiling to be a lot better. Speaking of ceiling, and this is where I do talk about, the flip side of adding a talented guy to the room. You're bringing in a guy who's basically a 5-star in Braylon Womack. And I know officially when it's all said and done, he was a 4-star, but when State got him committed and when State got him signed, he was a 5-star at a Hartfield Academy. And that was a massive, massive recruiting win for State. Getting a guy as talented as Braylon Womack that apparently is already turning heads in practice, a guy who is going to play this year, a very good athlete, someone that I've mentioned this a few different times. When you go through the scouting report, if you want him to be a deep middle of the field post player, he can do that. If you want him to play as a nickel and be that guy that can actually give you man coverage out of the slot, he can do that as well. And that's something that, look, I don't know if you're going to ask him to do that as a freshman, but I've thought back a lot. Zach Arnett's defense, the one thing people always griped about is when a player like Colin Duncan in man coverage. I know people would bring up a guy like that. Why do we have, and not to pick on Colin Duncan, I just remember he got put in those spots a few times. Why is Colin Duncan covering Malik Neighbors one-on-one against playing LSU? And it's a fair question, but if you're going to play man, your safeties are going to have to play man. That's kind of it. Kind of what you can do. If you don't play man coverage, then your safeties are fine. Or if you only play man coverage on the outside, your safeties are fine. But if you're going to be aggressive and you're going to send an all-out blitz, which Zach Arnett likes to do, one of your safeties is going to be man up on a slot receiver. And obviously, a lot of offenses are going to put some of their more talented receivers in the slot in those situations to take advantage. We've seen Arnett's defenses get burnt because of that when the pressure doesn't get home. I'm not trying to put these expectations on Braylon Womack as a true freshman, but is he a talented enough guy that could eventually get to that point and be a guy that we can trust him to play one-on-one in man coverage and he's going to hold up and not get toast downfield? That could be the ceiling there. So that's another guy I'm really excited to see play in that spot. I think you upgraded at safety. I do. Because even if you say worst case scenario, even if you say the guys that came in are not upgrades over what you had, I think that's the worst case scenario. I don't think you were going to be worse at safety than you were. Then you add a 5-star freshman into the mix and Womack, you're better. So I really like what they have there.